Exposing the myth in Cleopatra's legacy, most people picture her as a cunning temptress, but the truth? That image is only a tiny fragment of who she really was. For centuries, stories, plays and movies have painted Cleopatra as a woman who used her beauty and charm to manipulate powerful men. But if we peel back the layers of legend and look at the real historical figure, we find a woman whose intelligence, political skill and resilience far outshone any romantic intrigue. It's far more fascinating. Cleopatra's life was a high-stakes game of survival, strategy and ambition. She lived in a world where power was everything, and every move could mean the difference between life and death, not just for herself but for her entire nation. What if I told you Cleopatra was less about romance and more about power, brains and survival? She was a queen who had to navigate a treacherous political landscape surrounded by rivals, traitors and foreign invaders. Her story is one of grit, determination and relentless pursuit of her goals, even when the odds were stacked against her. Let's dive in. Let's bust the biggest myth first. Cleopatra wasn't Egyptian by blood. This surprises a lot of people because she's so closely associated with Egypt's golden age. She was actually Macedonian Greek, descended from Ptolemy, one of Alexander the Great's top generals. The Ptolemaic dynasty ruled Egypt for nearly 3 centuries, but they kept their Greek heritage alive, rarely mixing with the local population. Cleopatra was the last of this line, and she stood out even among her own family. But here's the twist. Cleopatra totally embraced Egyptian culture. Unlike her ancestors, she didn't just rule Egypt, she became Egyptian in the eyes of her people. She adopted their customs, their gods, and their traditions, making herself a true pharaoh in every sense of the word. She learned the language, dressed like a native, and was the first in her family to truly connect with her people. Cleopatra was fluent in Egyptian, while most of her predecessors only spoke Greek. She participated in religious ceremonies, honored the ancient gods, and presented herself as the reincarnation of Isis, the beloved goddess of motherhood and magic. Now, onto her reputation. Forget everything you've seen in old movies. Hollywood loves to focus on her love affairs, but that's only a fraction of her story. The real Cleopatra was a political genius, a skilled negotiator, and a ruler who inspired loyalty and fear in equal measure. Cleopatra wasn't just about romance. She was a woman who understood the power of image and perception, using every tool at her disposal to maintain her grip on the throne. She became queen at 18. Imagine running a whole country before you finished high school. At an age when most people are still figuring out who they are, Cleopatra was already making decisions that would shape the fate of an empire. She co-ruled with her younger brother, survived exile, and outsmarted enemies at every turn. Her early years on the throne were marked by family betrayal, political backstabbing, and even civil war. Yet, she never gave up. She returned from exile, reclaimed her throne, and proved herself as a leader who could not be easily defeated. Cleopatra was a master strategist. She understood the delicate balance of power in the ancient world, and played her cards with precision. Whether it was through diplomacy, alliances, or military action, she always had a plan. She formed alliances with Rome's biggest power players, not just for love, but for the survival of her kingdom. Her relationships with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony were as much about politics as they were about passion. Cleopatra knew that Egypt's independence depended on her ability to navigate the dangerous waters of Roman ambition. She spoke 9 languages, wrote scientific papers, and even led a navy into battle. Cleopatra was a scholar as well as a queen, deeply interested in philosophy, medicine, and astronomy. She surrounded herself with the greatest minds of her time, turning Alexandria into a center of learning and culture. She wasn't just a figurehead, she was actively involved in the intellectual life of her court. So next time someone calls Cleopatra just a seductress, set them straight. Remind them that she was a ruler who faced impossible odds and still managed to leave her mark on history. Her legacy is about so much more than romance. It's about leadership, resilience, and the power of reinvention. She was a ruler, a survivor, and one of history's sharpest minds, way more than just a pretty face. Cleopatra's story is a reminder that history is often more complex and more inspiring than the myths we inherit. She was a woman who defied expectations, broke barriers, and changed the course of history forever.